that seek, sexual gratification, eating big meals, the thrill of doing something exciting. The reason we have those urges is to help us survive. These are tools that the DNA has given us to help us survive.
Right. The DNA, this molecule that has only two fucking things on its mind: consumption and reproduction. It's not trying to accomplish anything. It doesn't have some idea like, oh yeah, I'm going to do something productive today. No, that's not its mission. Consumption, reproduction. That's all the little machine gives a damn about. It doesn't matter how many brains it has to eat to do it. It doesn't care how many things it harms. It doesn't care how much suffering it creates. It doesn't give that any consideration whatsoever. It's on a singular mission: consumption and reproduction. How the fuck can you validate that? Why should I think that's an important mission?
We can simply gratify our needs. But of course this is breaking down, right? Because as we now understand our needs deeply, sometimes we want to overcome those needs. We don't...
Yeah, right. So we just want something a little different. The style becomes different. We become Gucci instead of Calvin Klein. Big fucking difference, right? Want. It's all it's about is the want. The want isn't rationally contrived. The want is naturally imposed. All right? What exactly we want specifically doesn't matter much once you take the dynamics of our influence out of the equation. Once we cannot harm something else, okay, what we want becomes quite irrelevant.
And when you say that we can put people in their own little worlds, you're saying that what they can do is they can just focus on the gratification, and they don't need to seek out the higher truths of those gratifications.
Yeah, what higher truth? Like I said, you keep talking like there's some fucking higher truth. There's no higher truth than we are owned by the mission of a molecule. All right? The complexification, yes, so that means we'll put that on the fucking totem pole and pray to it. Matter must complexify. And so we will just complexify our psychology until we become so bizarre and strange. And is there any point where we become satisfied that we've written a complicated enough soap opera to live out? But that's all it is. It's a damn soap opera. We are still doing fundamentally, we're doing nothing. We're chasing fucking illusionary cheese. We're chasing the fulfillment of desire. Period. It's not any more elaborate than that. And the desire is irrelevant. Doesn't have to fucking exist. It's not necessary to the function of the goddamn universe, and it certainly isn't necessary to some word called productivity.
So we have this primitive need, and it develops into a more enlightened, subtle need.
Oh, come on. It's not more enlightened. That's your key phraseology, right? It's more enlightened because you become horny to... I want to have kids so my kids can rule the world tomorrow. Or some other kind of bullshit because you have some aspiration to accomplish something that certainly doesn't mean anything. It just satisfies your own selfish individual ego. So it's just a want. It's just your Gucci form of want. So who cares? It has nothing to do with philosophy and the truth, okay? It's not a higher truth. It's just a more perverse and elaborate truth. But it's still, and it's not even a truth because it's made out of complete bullshit because you have presumed the DNA mission is valid. The consumption and reproduction thing makes sense. Yes, let's consume and reproduce. Let's inject consciousness in the whole thing so we have something to exploit and torture and make miserable. And what's the fucking point in it? To have something that we that's something abusable? Why create the risk in the first place?
And you want to put people in a VR where it just stays primitive. How is that better? How is that better to
stay primitive? You know better, okay? You really do know better. It doesn't have to be anything. It can be as primitive as you want it to be, or it can be as elaborate as you want it to be. All right? You can write any fucking kind of game there is, okay? And most people aren't going to play, I don't know, I haven't heard any video game title called, like, Caveman, where they just bang on a rock all day or something, or where they take 16 hours to pull the hide off of a beastie, I haven't seen that virtual game out there, that game to play. So what are you talking about? Most people are just going to want to satisfy their Gucci style or their Calvin Klein style or whatever the style of their dopey personality is, and that's how they will pursue their truth in virtual reality. But it's not a truth. It's just a fucking goddamn perception of meaning.
Stop the process of evolution. And if ever you allow yourself to ignore reality, that's what you've done, is you stop the process of evolution.
Oh, please. It has nothing to do with ignoring reality. It has to do with conceding to reality. One of the realities is that we are living futility, okay? That's all we are. We're living the aspirations of a dumb molecule. We have been designed to consume and reproduce. Well, as soon as we start attaching something else to our mission, as soon as we acquire some other mission, all right, then we're going to start breaking our own mechanics, because that's not going to be compatible with the mechanics, because the mechanics are built to make us into a selfish, consuming, and reproducing monster. All right, and so yeah, we can certainly strive to be something better, but the bottom line is it's still futile in the end. There's nothing to be accomplished here, Pyro. You can keep thinking there's some kind of magic that the truth is going to lead us to, some sort of destination the truth goes to. No, we've already at the destination. The destination is the realization that we were conceived by shit. All right? That's it. Shit conceived us. Not intelligence, not a god. Shit. Dumb fucking forces conceived us. They built us. All right? And that's the sad, tragic truth of our existence. And the only way we can make this thing mean anything is to perfect the environment that consciousness must endure, what must exist in. And if we're not willing to perfect it, then we are failures. Then we have wasted our goddamn intelligence, because perfection is the only rational goal.
And in my view, that's like suicide.
Yeah, well, in my view, you people are like disgusting, sick, perverted lunatics with your goddamn optimism, your goddamn perception that everything's going to work out okay. Your whole idea, like I said, that you would impose this thing on other people. You would impose it on them, like presumptively, I know life will be good for you. You can't know that, Pyro. You have no way of knowing that. You can't undo the suffering that somebody else feels or has to endure because of your fucking optimism, can you? No, you can't. And so you say it's all worthwhile because you think it's worthwhile, because you have a perception that the ride is worth riding. Well, what if somebody doesn't want to ride the ride? What are you going to do about that? How do you compensate the person who you forced to ride the ride who didn't want to ride the ride?
That's why they've been popular in philosophy for a long time. Before we had the Matrix version of this metaphor, this is just the idea of the brain in the box, that we don't know where the sensations are coming from, that they could be generated by something else. Or for that matter, Descartes was thinking that maybe he was being deluded by Satan.
Yeah, well, whatever. Look, we know we're not living in a virtual reality. You want to pretend that there's some realistic percentage chance that somebody created a really dumb game and forced us to live a really stupid and ineffective and idiotic game. All right, and you want to buy the premise of even the Matrix, this stupid premise that, oh yes, well, we gave the human batteries the perfect program and they rejected it. Yes. And here's the logical evidence demonstrating how this rejection took place, how the human animal couldn't stand living in a world where they didn't have to struggle and live in miserable, dopey, idiotic mediocrity lives. Oh, come on. It's just a pile of shit. All right, we know where we exist here, okay? We live in an imperfect physical universe, all right, run by imperfect, stupid, idiotic, moronic, non-intelligent forces. All right, and we have something completely different. It's not compatible with this imperfect world, because we have something that can be perfected.
Pragmatic questions are about things that really work, that work in reality. That's the fun.
Yeah, great. Now, see, that's the key word in everything you say. Use this word work. What's your definition of work? Is your definition of work that which fulfills the mission of the DNA molecule that cares only about consumption and reproduction, survival of the fittest, okay? What's your definition of that fittest? All right, what's your definition of this thing called working? All right, what is a working human system? What is a working biological system that involves conscious beings? Explain to me the dynamics of what is defined as working. working. All right? Does a working system include pointless and ludicrously sloppy death? Is that part of a working system where you build the machine, perfect the machine learns, and then it just decomposes and rots and suffers? I mean, is that part of your working system?
But it took, a couple hundred years before, before Edison thought of making a still more pragmatic device with that truth. But the truth was already pragmatic. We hadn't put it to a still more practical use, but it was obviously potentially possible to do that, and it's not an accident. It's because...
Yeah, well, there's no point in giving some stupid light bulb example, okay? The truth, the burning filament truth, the pragmatic truth of our origin is not something you're going to build any fucking light bulb out of, okay? It doesn't have... There's no fucking silver lining to that truth. It's not a fucking truth that has potential to turn into a goddamn, magic machine that's going to sail us off to some wonderland. It's not going to do that. It's a fucking dismal, rotten truth. It sucks. It's a lousy fucking truth.